The sign on the door was in English. It said, "Open 24 hours," and "Fitness, weights, gains." I grabbed a cigarette and lit it. It was my second to last one. I took a deep drag. We stepped inside. Oh hey, didn't see you there. Just here reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, cause we're loading our heads and buying drugs from bad llamas. That's right, it's the Dungeon Crawler Carl role-playing game from Renegade Game Studios. In this deep dive of dangerous digital dungeons, players take the role of crawlers, each trapped in a post-apocalyptic, death-loving reality game show with a galaxy-wide audience. One player takes on the role of Game Master or GM, guiding the crawlers through a televised maze of violence, treasure, mayhem, and maybe even parasocial relationships with the fans. Who doesn't love them? When playing a crawler, players will have a character or crawler sheet, which includes space for the crawler's key info, the 5 core stats: strength, intelligence, constitution, dexterity, and charisma. We don't talk about that other one, you don't need that in here. These stats will have a value and accompanying modifier value for dice rolls. Space for skills. DCC is a skills-based game and there's no limit to the types of skills players and GMs can design. Me, I'm gonna say ice cream testing is my main skill. Anyway, the skills come in 4 main flavors. Attack skills, like weapon aptitudes, tactics, and techniques. Spell skills, used by my magic users by spending their mana to create reality-bending effects. Ooh. See that thing they didn't post? That's magic. Utility skills for interacting with other characters, crafting items and other non-combat abilities, and passive skills, which are always active and don't require a skill check to activate. It's a lot of activity for a passive skill, but speaking of skill checks, between the action of narration and storytelling, players resolve uncertainty and dangerous situations by making checks. Checks are made with 20-sided dice, adding in various modifiers from a crawler's stats or skills to the rolled result. In Dungeon Crawler Carl, only crawlers make these checks. GMs never roll the d20 at all. It's the one thing they get before dying horribly in a dungeon. Just let them have it, GMs. The combined result of the check is compared to a number set by the GM based on how difficult they think the task is to accomplish. This number is known as the difficulty. If the player's final result, with all relevant modifiers included, equals or exceeds the difficulty, they succeed on the check. When determining the difficulty, the GM starts with a base number of 10 and then combines a number of factors, including the current floor of the dungeon, the situational details, and whether the action is opposed by other characters or forces. For opposed checks, the formula is 10 plus the antagonist's relevant stat modifier plus the floor number. The stat mod value could be replaced by a spell rank, a size class, or whatever force the crawler is up against. An unopposed check occurs when there's no antagonist or obstacle and is instead based on how deep the crawler is in the world dungeon. 10 plus the floor number times 2. Examples of unopposed checks include climbing, endurance, and dumpster diving. If the crawler isn't messing around with anyone when making these skill checks, it's an unopposed check. I would say dumpster diving is kind of a solitary skill. After the final result of a check has been calculated, the GM then determines the result. Generally, if it meets or exceeds the difficulty, they succeed. Otherwise, they fail. However, the intergalactic audience is looking for a little bit more than just a binary result. They want big risks and spectacular results as they sit on their couch eating space peanuts or whatever. It's all about the ratings, baby. When a success occurs by matching or exceeding the difficulty by 9 or less, the basic result happens. Success by 10 or more delivers a more impactful result to the narrative, and when a player rolls a 20 on the d20, known as a natural 20, the best possible result occurs. In the dumpster, you find a white pair of boxers covered in little red hearts. The inverse is true for failures, with a rolled 1 on the d20 resulting in the worst possible outcome. The boxers are actually a pile of snakes with hearts on them. However, a failure by 1 or 2 is the exception, known as a near miss. These failures still have a chance for success. An ally could step in to help in a fight, or the crawler may be able to succeed with a complication. Now, all the dungeons are dangerous on their own, but the denizens are the biggest threat and the best most effective way to deal with them is probably combat. When engaging in combat, which is divided into rounds, the participants, crawlers and the mobs, as the enemies are called, don't act in a specific order. Instead, the GM announces the intentions of the mobs and the targets for their attacks. Crawlers may then react to evade the attacks coming their way or use skills, items, etc. However, each crawler gets 2 actions per round, and any action spent reacting to mob attacks means they'll have fewer actions left later in the round. Any unevaded damage to the crawlers is calculated by a die roll of the GM, their primary way to roll dice in the game. Once the mob's actions and attacks have been resolved, crawlers spend their remaining actions in any order. There's no initiative amongst the party. Attacking involves 2 steps, the attack roll and the damage roll. The attack roll is a d20 plus a relevant skill rank, such as a weapon or spell skill, plus the relevant stat modifier. This result is compared to the evade score of the target, which is 10, plus its dexterity modifier, plus the floor level. For instance, a crawler casts the Fire Fingers spell at an enemy. They spend their mana, then roll a 12 on the d20, add their 5 ranks in Fire Fingers, and their intelligence modifier of +4 for a total of 21. The mob has an evade score of 10 plus a dex modifier of 5 plus we're on floor 2, making their evade score a 17. Since the crawler's roll meets or exceeds that, they hit and roll damage. That roll depends on the spell, skill, or weapon being used and varies from case to case. Damage is tracked on a health bar. Mobs have various sized bars, but the crawlers have 10 slots on their bar. Each slot is multiplied by the crawler's constitution modifier. So, if a crawler has a con mod of 3, they have 10 slots of 3 points each. If the damage applied is less than a value of a slot, then no damage is taken. Pretty cool. If the damage is equal to or greater than the value in the health bar slot, divide the damage by that value, and that is how many slots are lost. If there's any remainder, it's rounded down and causes no further harm. If a crawler loses their last health bar slot, they gain the Dying debuff and must be healed to at least 1 health bar to survive. Mobs, however, die instantly upon losing their last health bar. Suckers. Let's talk leveling up. As crawlers advance through the dungeon, they gain experience and practice with their skills, honing them for future encounters. Thankfully, Dungeon Crawler Carl doesn't require experience point tracking though. At the end of each 2-hour game session, each party member gains 1 level. When a crawler or party completes a quest, they gain at least 1 level. When crawlers grind enemies, flattening a consistent group of lower level mobs to raise their skills, they occasionally level up during the process, though it's kinda slow. When a party kills a boss, they each gain levels based on the tier of the boss. Bosses are dangerous mobs that generally guard the stairwell exits from one dungeon floor to the next. One way to advance skills is through using them. Whenever a crawler attempts a skill, whether they succeed or fail, they place a mark in the box next to that skill if one isn't there already. At the end of every 2-hour session, roll 1d20 for each marked skill with a rank of 4 or less. If the skill is rank 5 or more, roll 1d20 only at the end of each floor. If the d20 result is higher than your current rank, increase that skill's rank by 1. After resolving these rolls, erase all marks and start fresh. And that's the basics of the Dungeon Crawler Carl role-playing game. Be sure to check out the crowdfunding campaign for Dungeon Crawler Carl at the link below, or if you're living in the future, get the book at your local game store, provided you're not thrown into an intergalactic TV dust show first. I'm Becca Scott, this is Good Time Society, and you should really spend more time in dungeons. They're not just good for leveling up your skills, but also great for the skin to avoid all that UV, you know? While you're here, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/goodtimesociety, where you'll get access to behind-the-scenes content, exclusive events like Blood on the Clock Tower games with moi, Discord channels, and so much more. We'd love to see you there. Bye-bye.